storm. My name is Rachel, and I'm going to give you a bit more information about hurricanes. Feel free to fly around as I explain what a hurricane is, how they are formed, and more interesting facts about these natural disasters. You can read this report in the online manual. Total time to listen to this audio flight is approximately 16 minutes. Let's start. What is a hurricane? A hurricane is an extreme weather occurrence. It is a rotating, organized system of clouds and thunderstorms that originate over tropical and subtropical waters and has closed, low-level circulation. A hurricane structure consists of bands of intense rainfall and high wind speeds around a calm central point called the eye, usually about 20 to 40 miles across. The diameter of a hurricane can vary considerably, but is typically 300 miles wide. Around the world, hurricanes are also known as typhoons or tropical cyclones, depending on where you are. Generally, this kind of storm is known as a hurricane in the North Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and Caribbean, a typhoon in the Northwest Pacific Ocean, and as a tropical cyclone in the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, and Australian waters. Although hurricanes mainly occur in the tropical and subtropical regions close to the equator, there have been some anomalies. One such was Hurricane Katrina in 2004, the first ever recorded hurricane in the southern Atlantic Ocean. However, this was very unusual, with some debate to whether it was a true hurricane. Ready to learn more? Let's learn about how hurricanes are formed. A hurricane begins its life as a tropical disturbance and depression from which it develops into a tropical storm and into hurricane status if conditioned. However, not all tropical storms will become hurricanes, as a series of environmental conditions need to exist in order for a hurricane to form. Hurricanes need warm ocean waters of at least 26 degrees centigrade and do not form within 5 degrees latitude north and south of the equator due to the absence of the Coriolis Effect that is responsible for the storm rotation. The warm ocean waters also need to extend to approximately 50 meters in depth. This ensures the storm has a large, plentiful water supply to grow and develop. As the warm ocean waters evaporate into the atmosphere, the air becomes humid. The water droplets change form and create. As this continues, these clouds build up into a series of thunderstorm clouds. Additionally, there needs to be favorable atmospheric conditions, which consist of a low vertical wind shear, allowing the main area of convection vertical transport of heat and moisture into the atmosphere to remain over the center of the lowest pressure. If the area has a high wind shear, the storm could disperse. The storm also requires a low surface and an area of relatively high pressure above the growing storm. With light wind steering, the storm will begin to rotate. As the air evaporates from the warm surface waters, rises, and cools, it releases large quantities of latent heat. This is believed to be responsible for giving a hurricane so much energy. As the wind speed increases, the storm intensifies. Once maximum sustained winds over 63 knots 74 miles per hour, only then is it classed as a hurricane. The rotating winds create a circular center point which is called the eye. The eye of the storm is generally calm and cloud-free. However, the eye wall is considered the most dangerous part of the hurricane as it has the strongest winds, thickest clouds, and heaviest rain. The exact origin and mechanisms of what makes hurricane is somewhat unknown, but the conditions leading to potential hurricanes can be identified. Allows us to monitor storms, their intensity, as well as predict possible pathways. This means we can prepare and respond accordingly to help save lives and reduce impact. Let us continue. When do hurricanes occur? From historical records, the areas of the globe affected by hurricanes tend to be over warmer parts of the ocean, mainly originating over the western areas of ocean basins where cold currents do not exist. In each hemisphere, hurricanes are more likely to occur during the summer and autumn seasons of the year. The direction of rotation differs depending on the hurricane's location on Earth. They rotate in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere and an anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere. This is due to a force called the Coriolis Effect produced by the Earth's rotation. Once a hurricane has developed, they typically move towards the west. To continue movement, they rely on energy created from heat and moisture. When the ideal conditions considerable danger to life and cause severe damage to property, infrastructure, and the environment. So how are hurricanes categorized? The Beaufort Wind Force Scale is a descriptive table designed to estimate wind speeds using visual observations. Developed in 1805 to aid sailors. Force is scaled from 0 to 12 a hurricane. This scale is still used around the world today for estimates of wind strength, when the conditions are determined to be of hurricane force by various means. The Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is used to classify hurricanes into categories according to the storm's present intensity using wind speed. Additionally, it is used to estimate potential property damage as well as coastal and inland flooding. It doesn't, however, take all secondary hazards into account. The categories range from 1 to 5, with 3 to 5 considered a major storm. Tropical storms cause minor damage, and winds are between 34 to 63 knots. A Category 1 storm can possibly cause damage to smaller objects, and winds are between 64 to 82 knots. Category 2 storms often cause widespread damage from the strong winds, including considerable damage to trees, vegetation, and also cause power outages. Winds are between 83 to 95 knots. A Category 3 storm can cause extensive damage to small residential buildings and smaller structures. Winds are between 96 to 112 knots. Category 4 storms cause devastating damage, including wall failures and major erosion to beach areas. Flooding will also occur in severe forms, causing even more damage. Winds will be between 113 and 136 knots. Finally, a Category 5 storm will cause catastrophic damage to buildings and structures, while sometimes causing irreversible damage to towns, cities, and landmarks. Winds will above 137 knots. Some are more destructive than others due to location, intensity, and pathway. A large-size hurricane doesn't necessarily mean that it will be a major storm.